Hey everyone, welcome to the Horror PSA presented by Scary Nerd, and as always, we are your hosts. I'm Paul.
I'm Saul.
And I'm Angie.
The following is a public service announcement.
When a 12-year-old girl is possessed by a mysterious entity, her mother seeks the help of two priests to save her. And that's just the tip of the iceberg for the 1973 mother of all possession movies, The Exorcist.
She really didn't seek those two priests, though.
Yeah, that doesn't really encapsulate the whole...
journey to her priest?
There's a lot of journey in this movie. This was a 70s movie, and so there's a lot of journey and a lot of setup.
The Exorcist starts taking place at about 20 minutes left of this movie.
Oh, yeah.
You mean The Exorcism?
Yes, The Exorcism.
The Exorcism, I think, is, maybe 20 minutes total.
It's about the last 20 minutes of the film.
And there's two scenes of actual exorcism. They do one prayer, they tie her up again, spit the split pea soup out a couple times. Then we take a break, and then, Father...
I do have to add, this was
Father
Kim's first watch. This was my actual first sit-through. I've seen this movie in, chunks. Never actually, sat down from beginning to end. I've always seen it on.
Chunks.
So, yeah. So I knew what happened and everything, but I'd always seen it in different pieces, never all in one sitting.
Yeah, I had
Your cunting daughter.
Cunting daughter. Yes, I had seen this movie many times.
I hope the kid was asleep when you were.
No, she wasn't here. She wasn't here.
Yeah, I had seen this many times, mainly because it was one of those that my parental unit was always like, "It's so scary." It was the scariest one. It was this and Psycho and Texas Chainsaw. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to sit down and watch them. And I was like, it's a 70s movie. When you go back and watch movies like that, you can't get into it, especially when you're a kid and you're in the cinematic element of your own time. You can't.
You can't. And I've had this discussion and almost arguments with other film people. I'm like, look, you can appreciate the movie, but unless you were a teenager in the 70s living in that society, you'll never understand what it was like for them.
Yeah.
No,
and then you really can't. And you can enjoy the movie. That doesn't mean, you don't understand the movie, you don't get it. It's none of those things. It's just you'll never be in that mindset or that time frame because you've already seen movies that are way worse than this growing up.
See, that's the thing with me, though, especially with movies like that when they say that, people were legitimately getting called the ambulances to come get them in this movie.
Yeah,
and you hear about that with all these other ones.
People fainting and all that.
Yeah, people fainting and all that stuff. You hear this about The Exorcist. You hear this about Psycho. You hear this about some of the more recent ones that we've been around for was Blair Witch and then the Paranormal Months.
I think Blair Witch was more people were getting motion sickness than it was actual
that
scary.
I could get, yeah.
And then the other one too, Paranormal Activity. You can to me.
Oh, Paranormal Activity was purely PR. Yeah. It was purely PR going, this is so scary.
No, that was a great marketing campaign by Paranormal Activity.
But to my point, though, you get those movies where you try to get into those mindsets, but us three who have been seeing horror movies for years and years and years, to me, it's hard for me to see why people get so worked up with that when it's
it's hard to understand.
Yeah, it's hard to understand.
I mean, but I get it when you think about how our parents or think about your aunts or uncles or somebody, just that other generation. You're like, yeah, you guys didn't have shit to do.
No.
So I can understand why this was scary.
Even as a child, I questioned everything, and that included religion and God and all that jazz. So I was like, how can this be scary because it's not real?
Exactly.
People were like,
that's the other thing too.
Paul can probably back on me is us being Mexican kids, we're not scared of ghosts or anything. The one thing that's going to scare the shit out of us is the almighty chancla. You get mom getting one of those things, you'd be like, oh shit, I better behave.
I can see that. I can feel it.
Yes.
I know where it is. I know where it's coming from.
You can threaten me with the ghost and you can threaten me with the Lloronas. I don't see any of those, but I see the chancla in your hand and I'm going to shut my mouth because I don't want to, no.
Yeah, they're going to come get you. I'm like, let them because they might have better stuff than you guys do.
And they might be nicer to me. I don't know.
Maybe they won't bitch all the time. Bring them over here. Fuck.
I mean, if I go with the devil, I might not have to clean my room ever again, is all I'm saying.
He won't have a chancla.
So what you're saying is he's got candy and I don't have to clean my room?
And a good time?
Yes.
This isn't a very good...
And metal music? Hold on.
He's like, you're not.
Don't threaten me.
Yeah, but I remember I sat through this, and as a teenager, this is a hard sit through because this is 2 fucking hours. A lot of exposition and story.
It's 2 hours of 15-minute exorcism.
It's 2 hours of them putting this poor girl through unnecessary medical experiments.
And, the whole fucking movie's okay. This is what I wrote down. The whole part's in Iraq, right?
Yeah.
This is what I wrote down. The whole opening scene is just Iraqis staring at the tall white man and gorgeous sunset shots.
Yes.
That's
And
all that first 20
They
minutes
don't even
was.
say anything. They're just staring
They
at
go,
him.
all you hear, ding, 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 ding,
I
ding,
know,
over
and I'm
and
like,
over again.
are they staring at Marin because he's slowly dying? Because he looks like he's slowly dying.
I know. The thing about Max,
Yes.
the thing about Max von Sydow, I'm like, he's been dying my whole childhood.
I know, because he wasn't really dying in that
I know,
movie.
like every movie, like I feel like I've grown up with every movie. Like it looks like he's dying. Like I was convinced as a child, like that man's gonna die.
He's
I
a sickly
know.
old man.
But he
I was
okay.
convinced too.
It was just great fucking makeup
It
because he was
was.
only 44 years old when he filmed this. He
Well,
was only,
okay.
He was only like I think less than he wasn't very much older than the guy that played Father Karras.
Yeah, he wasn't.
But it was just the makeup took like 3 hours
He
because
looked that much older.
because it
than
was
him.
like they layered it, let it dry, they layered some more, let it dry, then they peeled it really tight, then put the liquid latex on it, and then when they let it go, that's where you got all those
The
like
wrinkles.
really fine wrinkles.
That's
Yeah.
crazy. He's 44 and he looks like he's in his 80s.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
really thought he was dying. Like
Oh,
my
I know,
whole childhood.
and even
I'm
the
like,
way
please
he
stop
moves,
acting. Why
the
is
way
this
he
man still
moves,
acting?
and he's all like fragile with his body as he's
Yes,
walking,
I mean it's a great
and I'm like, yeah.
performance.
Well, like that's the thing you were saying. You can appreciate the movie, and I appreciate the thematics of the 70s filmmaking because it's very atmospheric. This
Yeah.
film is very atmospheric. It uses the tones, it uses that shock value, and we have to also remember that this was a book.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get that extra nonsense.
Yeah, I feel there's very cinematically speaking, I feel there's a lot of similarities between this and Jaws, having both been, from books and just the
Yeah.
way they had that 70s look and feel still like about them.
Yeah, and they I feel like these actors in this were very classically trained.
Yeah.
They knew how to portray that pain, that sadness,
Yeah.
that sorrow, and they do it. I mean, their scenes are all long and overdrawn and dramatic, but that was the 70s. But
See,
they
that
pull it
helps.
off.
See, that helps too because you're like, I have to sit here and watch this poor child get tortured.
I
at
know.
fucking, like,
Poor Linda
the
Blair.
hands of these,
Poor
like-
Linda Blair.
I know,
Linda
like not
Blair.
even just in the movie, like the actual like Linda Blair.
I
just
know.
get the shit beat out of her in this
She
fucking
really
movie.
did.
Man.
Poor Linda Blair. But this movie is great. I do like it. There's some ridiculous things in it, but like the archaeology
Yeah.
the
Here's my
archaeology
question
dig
on
that we
archaeology
didn't
dig.
really need in there at all.
Here's my question on that. I understand that they're digging for stuff and they're using pickaxes, shovels, and whatever need be, but don't you think that when you're doing that, you're going to start damaging the stuff that you're actually
Oh
supposed
yeah,
to be in?
real
into?
archaeological digs, and I wanted to be an archaeologist, so I know this, children. They actually use like those mesh sheeting things to get through the fine dirt and stuff. They're not just picking axes
'Cause that's
through
what I'm
everything.
thinking.
And this was the 70s, man. They didn't care. They was like,
That's
we're gonna hire these dudes pennies a day to fucking just.
I mean,
dig all
in
day.
the 30s, they were just picking up fucking mummies and walking out with them.
That's what I'm thinking is like, dude over here is going to be swinging his pickaxe, and next thing you know, he's going to cause a cave and be like, oh.
Yeah, I was real sad when I learned that archaeology was not how it is portrayed in the movies. That was a
Indiana
real
Jones
sad
lied to
day.
us.
Yes,
so
he
basically,
did.
you want to be a grave robber, not an
I did. Yes, I
archaeologist.
wanted to be a grave robber that had a title of archaeologist when I was a child.
I'm sure there's in history there's been plenty of archaeology or plenty of grave robbers under the title
Oh
archaeologist.
yes,
Yeah,
there were for sure. That's why they have a whole like ethics board now, and yeah, so you can't just
You
like
can just get into certain areas of the Vatican if you say like
you can't
I'm a
just steal
historian.
shit out of a thing and take it back to America. It's like
But
no,
if
you have
you're-
to leave it in the country it's
But
in
if
now.
you're the first person to
Doesn't
find
matter.
it, who's gonna know?
Doesn't
That's the
matter.
other
Who's
thing.
gonna know?
Who's gonna know? You call your buddy that works at Hobby Lobby to smuggle your shit across
This is
the
true.
sea.
That's what they did. But then people start noticing later on, like 20 years later, they're like, "That's not American. Where did you get this?" And then
Don't
they ask
worry about it.
Why does
questions.
Hobby Lobby have this?
Exactly. This is how it happened. But yes, I did still get a degree in history, but archaeology is a lot more playing with dirt than it was stealing
So
stuff
what
out
is
of
it? He
temples.
finds the head of Pazuzu? Is that what it's supposed to be?
See, that's the
guess.
whole other thing that I don't get about this movie as far as like you don't really go into the Pazuzu story at all in this
No.
movie. And having seen the second one and knowing where they go with that story and the backstory of Pazuzu and all that, like I
Yeah.
get it, but I'm like, it didn't need to be in the first one. I feel like that was one of those things that was in the book that probably was more prominent in the book story
Like
than it
his
was
old
in the
travel
film.
and
yeah,
stuff?
like I'm
Yeah.
sure like that was way more
Because
like,
to
in
me,
depth.
what is it? If you want to say what the first 10, 15 minutes of it with him in Iraq or whatever need to be in northern Iraq, it's like, did they really need that in the movie? That
No,
really didn't.
we literally just watch him travel around for 15
I know,
minutes.
and then later it's just like a footnote when the other priests are deciding like who can we get to help Father Karras with his exorcism? We should
Yeah.
get someone experienced. He's like, oh, he was in Iraq. Like, oh no, he's back now. Like that's literally all you needed. Like you
Yeah.
can cut this movie in like
Oh, yeah.
I could probably make this movie into like 45, 50 minutes and you still get the whole story.
There's a few things in there that just don't really add anything to the story, and I think the beginning of it didn't really add anything, unless it's one of those things too where it's more of a prominent thing in the book.
I can almost guarantee that it's probably way more deeper backstory on Pazuzu and the whole how the Iraq thing tied into everything.
Yeah.
I also feel like watching Father Karras's mother die was probably one of those things that's in the book that gives you backstory on Father Karras, and it really adds to his whole "I'm losing my faith" and all this thing. Because I mean, you got to think like he's broke. You know, his mom's gonna die in this shitty like free hospital in in the Bronx or whatever.
Yeah.
And like, I feel like with the whole education that the church gave him, like it's like his uncle says, like you'd be living on Park Avenue. You'd be rich.
Hey.
But the thing that was fucked up to the church, though, is that they knew his mother was dying, and he said he would prefer to stay there to tend to her. And they're like, "Oh no, you got other things you got to do."
Well, they told him they could get him into New York or whatever. They could give him a transfer or whatever, but he wanted out of the psychology department, I think, is what his big deal was.
I thought he wanted out completely. Like he's like, I just don't want to do this anymore.
No, he asks for reassignment.
well,
he says it's not just psychiatry. These people are losing their faith, and I don't know if I have my faith anymore.
Because you kind of see him as a broken person, because you see him doing his mass, and it's just kind of going through the motions. It's like, dude, you're not even enunciating.
Well, I don't care who you are. If you do the same shit every fucking Sunday, you're gonna get tired of it, man.
Yeah.
No matter what it is.
I've seen some Catholic priests that are just like, no, son. I'm like, okay, you're
Please.
as bored as I am, I
Can I
guess.
die now, please?
I know the ones that are so old are like, please prop that man up better.
Why are you still parading him around?
Just let him die. Okay, but back to this movie. Speaking of which, when he goes to see his mom and he sees that old guy in the subway and he's like, "Can you help an old altar boy, father?" And he's like, "I'm a Catholic," because you have to tell him you're a Catholic or he's not going to help you.
But he didn't help him anyways.
He
I feel like
he
that
walked
didn't
away.
help
Well,
him.
the thing I took from that
Old
scene is like,
altar boy.
man, homeless people get a bad rap, because even a freaking priest who's supposed to be a son of God or whatever the hell it needs
It's
to
New
be.
York, man. He's
And
like,
he doesn't even want
to.
to give him anything. He doesn't want to give him like a penny, a dollar, or any of that. He's like, nope.
Hey, he's broke, dude. What the fuck's he gonna give him,
He
man?
gives his mom $10 later.
yeah.
Yeah, that's probably all the money he had.
He
Like,
does.
he was like, I have
he
no
took
money.
a vow of not celibacy.
Well,
Well, he
he
did
did-
take that vow too.
he did take that,
of
but-
poverty is what I meant to say.
Yeah, but still, isn't he supposed to help his fellow man? And that bum was asking for money, but no, he's like, nope, I'm going to give it to my mom.
What's that whole thing, man? Teach a man to fish or give
Yeah.
him a fish?
You know what I thought the biggest dick move from Father Karras in this whole movie was?
What?
Letting his mom fall asleep in that wooden fucking rocking chair. That
Oh,
lady is old. You
I'm
can't sleep in
assuming-
those things.
I'm assuming that's where she just normally sleeps.
No, don't. That's
Well,
why
she
she in
was-
pain all the time in her
Well,
fucking
She
chair.
was asleep in the chair when he got there, and then when she left, he was like, all right, well, she's asleep, and she can't be walking around that
No,
leg. So.
you're supposed to lay flat, man. Your blood needs to circulate. You gotta lay flat. You can't fall asleep in chairs all the time.
Wait, the whole thing about his mom and that whole side story or subplot or whatever you want to call it, I get that, he's losing his faith, and it's that whole thing that, it's leading up to him, shaping up to this exorcism and all that, and like it's going to be the showdown with the devil, and he doesn't even know if he has his faith anymore and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I didn't like it's always been very confusing to me, and even watching it now, like it finally makes a little more sense. But like he saw her, and then later she got hurt, and then nobody knew for a few days until they found her. So the uncle was like, we had to take her to this hospital to fix her up, and then we'll bring her home in a few months.
I was confused about that too,
Yeah.
because he says she was being crazy, and so we had to give her a shot and took her here. I'm like, did they drug this lady
Well,
to
yeah.
make her seem crazy?
It seemed
No,
like
like
that to me.
it seems like I thought it was like they gave her a shot to calm the fuck down so they could take her to the hospital because she didn't want to leave the house, kind of thing. Like,
Okay.
So maybe she was hysterical or whatever. It was just confusing to me that she was in the hospital and he's like, "We're gonna take you home, Mom," and she was like, "Leave me alone" or whatever.
Yeah,
But
she's
then the
got-
next scene, it's like, "Oh, his mom just recently died." I'm like, that was always so confusing. I'm like, but we just saw her in the hospital.
Yeah, we literally just
So-
saw her.
so
I
she-
know it didn't show any time had passed or anything like that. It just
didn't-
jumped.
It just jumped like that, and I was like, "Wait, so was she in that hospital, or was that a dream? Like, what the fuck was that?"
I always
Like, I
got
was
confused to that too. And then I thought, because when I was a kid and I first watched this, I remember thinking that he was just sad that his mom was in the hospital when his
Yeah.
friend goes to like get drunk with him.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, he's just
Yeah,
sad his
yeah, that's
mom's
what I
in the
thought,
hospital.
too.
But then they're like, oh, my mother died. I was like, when the fuck did she Why?
Did we miss a scene?
In the hospital. Yeah.
So yeah, there was no point in even showing. Like, and I guarantee that's probably a bigger thing in the book, and I'm sure it goes into more depth. But I'm like,
Andrew,
what was
you're
the point?
book reader.
I don't.
What
I haven't
was
read
the
Exorcist.
point of even showing the hospital part if you could have just, you shown her there in the house and then he leaves and then, maybe it's like a couple of days later they're like, oh, she's been dead for 3 days,
There's another scene too, like you said, that just it doesn't fit it. If you cut this, it's like, okay, you're really not losing much by getting rid of this.
Yeah, like completely. And you could just jump to the
Because all you got to do
you're
is
all gonna die while I piss in the
because you
carpet.
really don't need him visiting him in the hospital. Like if you skip the hospital scene, then you come back and you realize, oh, okay, she died.
Hey, but that was the 70s, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, they
And
had
I'm
to
sure
long form explain things.
They long form explained it, and I guess maybe, like I said, it's probably in the book more.
Yeah. I really love how Reagan's mom is just super cool with her convening with spirits.
Oh yeah.
Like,
It's like, where did you find this?
Is it Parker Brothers or Milton Bradley?
I think it was
it's-
Milton
it's,
Bradley,
It's ages,
yeah.
it's ages 8 and up, is what it says right on the box. So
Yep.
it's fine. I think the scariest thing to me when I watched this as a child was the fact that Reagan's like, Mom, can we buy a horse? She's like, well, let me think about it. I'm like, wait, like seriously? Because if I asked for a horse, they'd be like, the fuck's
Well, she
wrong
was
with
an
you?
actress. The mom
that
was.
scared you?
Yeah, I'm like, that's a normal thing that kids can ask for. Like, not in this neighborhood. But then 2 scenes later, when those kids are jumping on that beat up car in the in the alley, I'm like, that's more. Yeah, okay.
Well, there you go.
That's more comfortable for me. Like,
Yeah.
I'm used to those children, not weird kids that are like, can I have a horse, Mom? Like, yeah, sure. As soon as we get to the other house.
I wonder if in the 70s, xenophobia towards a white, I'd say,
I am Swiss.
I would say Europeans, I guess. Everybody was just like, you're a German. It's like, I'm not German. I'm just a white guy from Europe. Leave me alone.
I am Swiss. Yeah, well, probably because it wasn't too long after World War II, so I'm sure there was some of those.
It had been like 30 years.
Yeah, but think about how old those guys were 30
I
years
guess.
before, right? So they're still
Yes, the
harboring
director
some-
just gets drunk and is like, you Nazi bastard. How many
They're
people
getting
did
into
you
a fist
kill?
fight. That was hilarious to me.
I just think Carl is fucking gonna.
Carl was about to beat him
Carl
fuck
was like, I
up.
told you, no rats.
Oh, I know. He was. I was like, that didn't sound like fucking rats. Who thinks that's what sounds rats make? People who've never heard rats
People
before.
that can buy horses, apparently.
Apparently.
Okay, so when do we think the possession part started? Because I think, and actually you can kind of figure it out. What?
That Ouija board moved by itself.
No,
Yeah.
it wasn't the Ouija board.
No, it
Yeah,
moved
it
by
was.
itself.
No, like when, like because
It
you know how they
moved by
said that
itself.
something has to happen in their life for them to get let themselves open to get for possession.
Not when you play with the goddamn Ouija board.
Well,
But-
it was probably because Reagan's mom has anger issues and her dad is completely not in her
There
life.
you go. That's what I'm
mean-
thinking. Okay, this is the door that got cracked open for her to start getting possessed. Because obviously, when she was berating the operator, and you can see Reagan in the background, she's like, "Oh, I'm not getting a phone call."
I know, like, well, and then she seems like, well, Mom's just gonna yell on the phone all day. I'm just gonna take my shoes off and go to bed, I guess, because nobody's gonna fucking pay attention to me.
Teen kids, go to therapy.
And that's the
Fix
crazy
your
thing, though,
stuff,
she
or
went-
your daughter is going to get possessed.
She
That's
went
a horrible
complete,
PSA
she went
for this week.
complete Karen
She'll
on that
either
poor
be
operator.
possessed.
She
by
did.
She'll be possessed by the devil or possessed by the stripper
Yep.
gods or whatever.
God, could you imagine how annoying it must have been to get a hold of people in the 70s? Like,
Because you got to call the operator, tell
yeah,
them
'cause
the
the
phone number.
operator- especially
okay.
in Europe, like making a long distance phone call, trying to get a hotel to answer.
Did she even know what fuck time it was? Because it
I
was
have
during
no
the
idea.
daytime in Georgetown where they lived. So I'm like, it's nighttime there. How do you know it's like 3 a.m?
Because what was it? They were in Rome.
some
He was in
math.
Rome.
He was in
Rome,
Rome, and
yeah.
they were in D.C. So it's still at least 8 or so hours, I would imagine.
Yeah, you would think.
Yeah, she's like, it's the hotel. I said, somebody's got to answer.
the
But I'm like,
Hotel
what time
Excelsior.
is it? Because
Yeah.
in Italy, they go the fuck home. They ain't
Yeah.
they ain't America who just stays up all night working. No,
Like, stop calling.
I got spaghetti to eat and shit to do at home, and that's
very,
what I do.
Very presumptuous.
It is
of you.
very presumptuous. That's my American knowledge of Italians. So there you
I got to
are.
eat the pizza. That's stop calling me.
I said spaghetti.
Wow.
All right.
Wow, ladies. I got the money.
Alfredo? I don't know. I don't know. You're the one doing the accent, not
I
me.
got to fix my pipes. Hey. Yeah. I got a soccer match on the TV. You're a horrible person.
And the Mary statue gets the Madonna boobs and a penis.
Oh, yeah.
That was another scene. I was like, So who did that?
like
Did
they
the
do
demon do that?
Yeah, no one ever. It has nothing to do with this one.
Are we supposed to believe that Reagan snuck out and like got into this church and did it, or
Yeah, like
what?
what is going on?
I'm confused.
They never go back to that until
The cop.
part 3.
No, the cop talks about
cop
it.
talks about
He brings it up when
Yeah.
in that one conversation when he's weirdly asking Father Karras out for a date.
Yeah.
I know. Like, you want to go to the movies with me? No.
That's it. Okay, that's weird to me. Okay, I don't care. Like, even if it was a woman that I just met, and the same day she's like, "You want to go to the movies?" I'm like, "This is weird." I don't care. Like,
I
this
don't
is
know
weird.
you. You want my
We've
spleen,
just
don't you?
met and we've just met, and you want to go sit in a dark room with me?
The weird
No,
thing to
thank
me
you.
is when he told him the movie, and he's like, "Who's in it?" Like, how is that going to make your decision on whether you want to go watch the movie or not?
I think they were just pandering to each other at that point because he
Yeah.
knew he was going to bring it up again. Like, give me a name. Give me somebody.
I've never sat around a piano singing with my fellow
People.
people.
I
but-
really thought. I think when I was a kid, I really thought that's what old people did.
I did too. I thought, like, is this going to be the parties when I'm
Yeah.
an adult?
No.
We all
Like-
wear fancy dresses and
Paul,
sing
we're
around a
used to
piano.
different type of singing
Yeah,
when people are drunk.
Yeah.
Oh, I've heard that. The gritos.
No, it's not even that.
No.
It's your uncle's truck out in the front yard blaring music with the door open.
Yeah.
And they're
No,
all
I've
just
heard
drinking.
the laugh. I've heard those.
I'm not talking. Yeah.
Every time
No,
somebody
I'm talking
gets
about
drunk, I hear them.
when they sing.
Yes.
That's what I'm talking about.
That's when they sing. It's either Vicente Fernandez or somebody
We
along the
don't,
lines
we
that they're
don't-
going to start
we
singing,
They don't have a piano.
and they do their
Yeah.
drunk
I
crying.
think one of my grandfather's brothers played the accordion. So
My grandma plays the
that
accordion.
might have come out every once in a while.
My grandma does also play the piano. She might have been the 70s chick who
See,
sat
I
around
would
the
see that.
piano
Like,
and sang.
no, it's a Gergich family Christmas is what I imagine.
Yeah.
Like with your grandma, like just singing Christmas carols.
But see, Paul, I think that's the white people thing is they get drunk and
Well,
sing around the piano.
She's like, can we buy a horse? I'm like, the only people I know that would be like, can I buy a horse? Or like our Mexico families.
Yeah.
Yeah, like on farms, yeah.
Those cousins that live on a ranch in Mexico
Yeah.
Actually
somewhere. It's
legitimately
that
need them.
Legitimately have horses and need them for working purposes, not just like. And who is like, hey, we're having a picnic by the fucking river. Like, hey, little girl, do you want to ride my horse?
Yeah.
I know. I'm like, why
Me
was
too,
that
trust me.
man
Sharon.
out there?
Sharon, come on. You're supposed to be watching Reagan.
Why are you
Damn it.
letting my daughter ride
You
random
let me
people's
ride
horse?
it up and down. I'm like, what the fuck was Sharon doing? Making out with this dude?
Exactly.
I love how at the end Sharon's like, I gotta bounce. This was
Like, I
Sharon
can't do
had
this no more.
seen too much shit. She was out. She
'Cause
was
at
like, not
first-
going to change my mind. I'm sorry. I love you. But
At
that was some
first-
crazy fucking shit
at
I
first,
saw.
I thought Sharon was like an older sister or something.
Yeah.
But then, like, probably like the first few times I watched the movie and not paid attention to it.
Yeah.
I think I've seen this movie 100 times and only paid attention to it like maybe twice. Like, honestly.
I always thought it was so interesting how many like hired hands
She
the
had.
mom had. I was like, this is fascinating. You
Well,
don't
she
even
had
have
that-
to see your kid, really.
She had the Nazi couple making, mouse traps and the
They
bacon.
weren't Nazis. They were Swiss.
Yes.
I'm Swiss.
Because what? He was probably, I would take what? The handyman?
Nazi bastard.
Yeah, he was the
He was the
handyman.
driver, the handyman. He basically did like whatever guy stuff needed to be done, and the other lady did the woman stuff, like cleaning
Yeah.
and cooking, I guess.
And then
And
the
in
other
the
one
70s.
watched the kid.
In the 70s, I'm saying, not today's standards, but
Yeah.
what I mean by woman stuff. But
Yes.
yeah, because he's like, go get mouse traps. Like, I go now. They're not open. They're not open, Carl.
when she goes up into the attic again later, when she hears what she thinks is the rats
See,
and
and-
that candle, I'm like, nope, move,
No,
move.
Carl is just a very proud man, and it's like if you say things or accuse me of doing
Yeah.
things that are wrong, he's like, I will correct you.
See, no rats.
Because
Is
he
what
was
he
like,
says.
yeah, because he scares the shit out of
He
her.
does.
He's like, see, no rats.
Told you.
I took it as he goes up there and he's like, what the
9
fuck did I
rats.
tell you? He's like, what the fuck you doing up here? You don't think I did my job?
Told
He's like, you
you.
see those fucking rat
I
traps
tell you,
everywhere?
no rats.
No rats.
I told
in
you
here.
there were no fucking rats, but your ass made me come
Carl,
up here.
for a Swiss man, you're not very. You're pretty temperamental.
He is. Hey.
He was about ready to choke her.
I
So I
love
took it as.
chocolate.
Hey, but there were no rats.
No
but
rats.
when they are singing around the piano, Reagan interrupts to pee right on the floor.
This is what I think if you're singing, you son of a bitch.
And then so after her mom like gets her all clean and everything and puts her back into bed, that's when the bed moves. I was like, move.
Yes.
You need to move.
I know you were done filming the fucking movie.
All right, like get out of the house.
Well,
like I don't
even-
even care. Like if the bed moved, and even if it was like an earthquake or something, I'm like, nope, we moving out of the
here's
state.
the other
We're
things too
moving
that I
out.
thought was dumb is when they went and told the doctor about it, and they're like, "Oh, because they go into convulsions." She's like, "No, bitch, I was on the bed too, and that fucker still kept moving.
Oh, I also wrote a note about that doctor. I put, how smart can a doctor be if he's just smoking in a hospital around oxygen?
No, that's I thought of that too. I'm like, I wrote down like back in the 70s, you could just smoke in the hospital,
Yep.
like as the doctor.
As
and
the
shit.
doctor.
Well, back in the 70s, you could smoke.
Can you imagine being sick and in the hospital and having to smell fucking cigarette smoke everywhere throughout that hospital?
Your nurse just walking in like, all right, it's time to take your pills.
I would be so angry. I'd be like, get your fucking cigarette smoke out of my face.
You wouldn't have though. See,
I
and
would have.
this is what I'm saying. You weren't a child in the 70s. You don't know. You would have just been okay with it because everybody was doing it.
No, I was okay with it because I grew up in a
I know.
smoking house.
Okay, but yeah, well, see, I did too, so I just was okay with it too, and I was like, I thought it was like, kind of like,
But I thought your dad didn't smoke inside.
yeah, but he didn't, but he still smoked around like all the time. Like I was around him, even though he was outside and shit or
No,
whatever.
you
but
don't understand what living in a smoke-filled house. It's nasty.
There was a room back in the back that was smoke-filled room.
No,
so.
every room in our house smells.
Okay, and what the fuck happened in society that in the 70s everyone was okay with weed? Because she was like, I don't even smoke grass, you know?
I know.
Like I don't do anything, you know? And like it was nothing. Like I don't even smoke grass. Like everyone
I could
does.
tell you, Nixon came in and wanted to put the people who were against the Vietnam War and the black people away, so they made weed a big deal.
Yes.
Yeah. They couldn't just say
But
the hippies are
societal-
bad.
Societal.
No, yeah, it was Nixon who was like, nope, weed's terrible.
And don't forget, Reagan in the 80s.
We've had a long history of dumb white guys who don't know their shit. But anyway, Reagan gets mean with the doctors. I love what she's like, you fucking bastard.
And that to me, like that was just regular Reagan. That
Yeah,
wasn't
that
even
was
like
regular
the demon.
Reagan.
She was like, I'm tired of this shit, fucking
The
bastard.
thing that cracked me up though is when they go into the office and the doctor starts saying, "Is like your daughter cursed or whatever?" He's like, "No." He's like, "Well, you should have heard what she said to me."
No,
He's
yeah.
like, "What'd she say?" And then what was funny is when she tells her, he tells her what she said, and she kind of has that smirk, kind of laughing about it.
Yeah, they have it's during that one talk that they're having, and he's kind of like, I think we need to start looking for a psychiatrist or something like that. So,
and then the fucker says no. Because like they said, psychiatrist is not even going to be any sort of fucking help. But again, it's like, okay, what do you suggest? And they give her fucking Ritalin.
Yeah, they gave her Ritalin and Thorazine and a bunch of other shit.
See, okay,
Bunch of unnecessary medical experience.
Hold on. You know who else they used to give Thorazine?
Michael Myers.
There you go.
They did give him
See,
Thorazine.
so where is that sequel where Reagan like just turns into a serial killer and not just?
Well, Michael
not
was
even
a serial killer
possessed?
before the Thorazine.
Thorazine.
Before the Thorazine.
Thorazine.
And the other thing I got to say is I'm so glad that we don't have the medicine from the 70s, because what the fuck were they doing to her? Was that an X-ray, CT scan? What the hell was that?
It was some sort of loud,
Yeah.
obnoxious machine that she had to sit
It's
in.
funny to me that I'm like, all of that and that loud machine made out of that weird metal that all things used to be made out of, that always, like, the paint always chipped off.
Yeah.
There was a thing above her face, and I'm like, all the paint's chipping off of that. And it made that huge noise, and I'm like, this is just a CT scan. Like, this literally what this is.
Because
right
what
now.
is it they do? They put that little thing in her neck.
I know, and they're like, don't move. I'm like, then why is she awake for this?
Yeah. It was like,
If it's absolutely imperative that a child cannot move during a procedure, put them to sleep.
Yes.
Well,
That's the one thing I thought. I'm like, what are they going to do? I was like, are they going to prep her for
The-
surgery? What are they doing?
Mrs. McNeil's HMO didn't cover that.
Apparently. Oy.
But no, like all that for fucking an X-ray of your brain basically was a CT scan. So I think the line was you put the dye in, I think, to your brain or some shit. So
Something like that.
but yeah, when they did it the first time, and like then when that doctor and he brings that other doctor over, like the brain doctor, I'm assuming.
yeah, when they come to her house.
When
or
they go to the
whatever.
house and he's like, well, first thing is we got to do another scan. I'm like, you just did
You
that.
found
and
nothing.
nothing was in there.
No, I was like, they just watched this poor girl get thrown around her bed and she bitch slaps a doctor and they're like, oh, she's good. We'll just do another scan. Like, what the fuck?
No, and then when he was like, she's heavily sedated, she probably sleep through tomorrow. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, you guys just like 300 cc's of Thorazine stat.
When Pazuzu started coming out of Reagan and you see this little girl start acting the way she did, to me it was unintentionally hilarious because she not only bitch slaps the doctor, she bitch slaps her mom, she bitch slaps a bunch of people.
Oh yeah, she's just smacking everyone. She's like, get it fucking away from me, man. And I get it.
Your cunting daughter.
Cunting daughter. She also says "fuck me" a lot. She wants the demon is horny.
The demon is horny. What? Pazuzu is down for the
sticking the cock up her ass.
The
Like he's thirsty.
And the thing that he does
Pazuzu
with
wants
cross,
the snoo.
Pazuzu wants the snoo. There you go.
and the shit with the cross too. It's like, ooh, yeah.
Oh yeah, let Jesus fuck you. Yeah. I know that was another one that everybody was like, "Oh my god, it's so shocking." I'm like, "It's fake though. We all know that,
it's not
right?
real.
Like, it's just a movie."
Linda Blair got death threats. And,
Why would you give a
That's
12-year-old
bananas.
death threats?
And the studio hired
Bodyguards.
Bodyguards.
for her for 6 months after the movie's release because they were just afraid because she was getting death threats from like religios.
Go after children.
She's a 12-year-old.
I'm going to kill you in the name of God.
Yeah, I'm sure
because-
that's okay.
because you portrayed a demon that masturbated with a crucifix.
It's like, there's
Would we
a
call that
distinction
masturbation?
between-
That was owie things.
Yeah.
That wasn't masturbation. That wasn't pleasurable. Like the little girl in there saying, "Stop." No, that's hurtful. That's not. They
Well,
wasn't like a.
You don't know how Pazuzu gets down. That's all I'm saying.
Oh,
And that's
Pazuzu
the
takes
thing you
it
gotta
up the
break down
butt.
to those religious people. It's like there's a distinction between fiction and reality. People, come on. It's like this was fiction.
I know. I love her. Like Christ, I don't even smoke grass. I would tell you.
I would tell you.
When she goes home and there's just a bunch of police in the back part of her stairs behind her house.
I always took when Sharon comes home and Mrs. McNeil is there and she's like, I had to go get some more Thorazine, so I left Burke here. And then she kind of gives that look and she's like, I should have known better. I'm like, I always like, was like, because he's a drunk or
Yes.
because he kind of maybe would touch little kids? I'm like, I was always kind of like,
I was thinking it was a drunk because even when the guy comes over to tell her Burke is dead, he
Yeah.
was like, he must have been drunk. So I'm just thinking it was a
Well,
running
see, yeah,
theme
like,
with
I-
Burke.
I-
He was just drunk all the
they
time.
definitely had, that he was a drunk. And I get that, but I'm like, I don't know. I was like, it always kind of seemed a little extra. Like, you left a drunk
Well, the thing
touchy
about it though
guy
is
with the kids.
you would want to know, okay, because when she comes downstairs for the party and she tells him you're going to die upstairs, she's like, what the fuck do you mean by that?
But it's not even, that's not Burke. See, I thought that was Burke as well
Yeah, she
for a
tells
long
the-
time,
she
but that's
tells
not
that
Burke.
other guy.
Okay.
She tells some other guy. Burke is the guy who accuses Carl of being a Nazi.
Oh, okay.
But
Yeah.
that other guy dies too, though, doesn't he?
No.
When?
I thought he died like it was like they said, oh, that guy died or something.
I don't think
I don't
so.
remember
I
that.
don't see. I've watched this movie like 100 times and I still don't fucking know because you know what this movie is like. It's like fighting Bernard Hopkins, where he just lulls you to sleep and then the fight's
Who
over.
is Bernard Hopkins?
He's a
It's
boxer.
a boxing
A
metaphor.
very boring boxer.
Very,
Don't
very
get
boring,
boxing metaphors.
boring boxer, and he would always win because he'd lull you to sleep and then he'd win at the end.
Yes.
That's what this movie is like, and that's
Mm-hmm.
why I don't remember who the fuck dies because she was like, "You're gonna die up there," and I thought that the guy that she was talking to was the guy that was gonna go hiking or he was going to like some mountain thing because the other priest that was there was talking to him and he's like, "Oh, you're gonna go on this trip or something." Blah blah.
See,
blah.
I don't
fucking
even
remember
pay
that.
attention to the
See?
background
And we just watched this
conversations.
movie like about an hour ago.
We did too. We finished it right before we came over here. I did not pay attention to those adults. Nope. I was
The
like, give me
first-
the goods, man. I want the horror.
See, that's what I'm saying. This movie is like you got to pay attention.
I do like when the shrink, and it's a very intense scene when the shrink hypnotizes.
Oh, yeah. Why did she
Hypnotizes
have her hand up?
Because it's part of it. I think he
Is
was
it?
tapping on her hand to get her hypnosed. Because sometimes if you can't do a light thing or a back and forth thing, you can
Okay.
do it with hands. It's just basically engaging both parts of your
Because
brain.
I saw her like holding her hand up. I was like, why does she have her hand up like she has a question?
Yeah, it's weird, but
Because you have to have the brain focus on something, but
I
also
like-
not focus on something.
Okay.
I like how he forces Pazuzu to come out, and then after he does, after stinking up the place, he just grabs the doctor's balls.
I know.
Fights him.
Was Pazuzu just like farting everywhere?
Apparently,
What
I know the mom was like, "Oh my god, what is that?" She kept covering her mouth.
I'm sorry. She had chili today.
Apparently, Pazuzu just fucking stinks.
Carl's German. I'm Swiss.
I love how the doctor.
Yeah. So, but yeah, Pazuzu just grabs the doctor's nuts and it's like
Squeezes,
Yeah, like
and he's like, "Help me!"
I'm like, you guys didn't think like you guys are fucking doctors and you think this chick is batshit crazy.
I know
right
that.
now?
I'm pretty sure the doctor who was there while the shrink was doing the hypnotizing was the one she bitch slapped earlier in the day. So like, why wouldn't he be like, maybe even if
You
she's
didn't,
hypnotized, we should restrain
You
her?
didn't prepare your buddy for this, man.
Nope.
At all.
I love when she was like, I'm not going to put her in a insane asylum. And the doctor's like, well, it's not an insane. She's like, I don't fucking care what you call it. I'm not putting her in. I'm like, exactly. We all know that those hospitals are actually
she's in
still
a room
insane
of
asylums.
what, like 20 something doctors, and they're all telling her the same thing.
Oh, I know her line, 88 doctors, and all you can tell me with all of your bullshit.
and then finally, with the hypnosis of this movie, they kind of tell her, okay, maybe you should think about doing this with her because
there just gets to a point where he's like, we got no fucking clue, lady. Call a priest.
I know, and I love what her line is. She's like, so you're telling me to take my daughter to a witch doctor?
Yeah, because she even says that absurdity. It's like, okay, you guys have tried everything with medicine, and now you guys are telling me to try a witch doctor.
Yep. And
Okay, play devil's advocate here for a second. The line that doctor has that he's like, well, if she's convinced that, you know, she's possessed and it's something purely mental, then it would stand to reason that
process of
doing
it
the
would
process
help,
of having the exorcism would convince her brain that it's gone. So I'm like, if this was an actual mental, you know, health issue and not a, you know, Pazuzu possession, then I think that probably might work. I could see that working, you know, as a mental health tactic.
Yeah, I could see the reasoning.
Because there was an Unsolved Mysteries where some doctor burned a guy's hair and convinced him he rid him of the curse. And
Here's
then
the
guy
one thing
got
that
better.
I don't know if you know. I don't know if you picked up on it. I don't know if it was just me, but when he was telling her that, did you notice a smirk on the guy's face? Like he was like, she's gonna buy this. Like I'm telling her bullshit, and she's gonna buy this.
I think it was more of like, look, this is a long shot because he says it's a long shot, and he's like, it's all power of suggestion, basically, is what he's telling her, and so he's like, it could work, it could not. Like
matter.
Yeah, like I think that's where he was more going with it, and I love how she's not even into the idea until the cop comes to talk to her about Burke's death.
Yeah.
And then her face when she realizes it was Reagan is some great acting. Like it's just pure pain and sorrow and also fear.
She
like,
connects those dots and she's like, fuck.
Yeah, when she goes to refill his coffee and it focuses in on her face for a few minutes while he's behind her still. I'm like, yeah, that's a mother going through some shit.
It was like, oh, my daughter's a
And then
killer.
she has to give that cop an autograph. He's like, I'm sorry, I lied. It's for me. I'm like, way to be a creepo, man. Yeah. He's asking Father Karras out on dates and trying to get into this girl's pants now.
Why? It's an autograph. Why?
I guess.
You can't just ask for an autograph without wanting to sleep with her?
Not after you've just been like, I know somebody that you used to, you know, be a thing with died, and I think he was in your daughter's room, but we don't know for sure. But let me get an autograph.
To me, it seemed like everything he did was for a purpose because that's what investigators do. So that's kind of what I viewed it as.
He definitely seemed like one of those cops that's like, I'm going to throw. He was like a Columbo kind of dude where he's like, I'm just going to stumble and bumble into these things and, you know, until you reveal something accidentally.
Yeah. And then as soon as the police officer leaves, that's when we get that "Let Jesus fuck you" scene and the "lick me" scene where she shoves her mother's head into her.
It was nice of Pazuzu to wait until the cop left.
It was.
Anyway.
I mean, it was really considerate.
Like,
it was.
This is going to bring some shit that I don't want to be happening right now, so I'm going to wait. Like, all right, then fuck me.
And then after, you know, Reagan's head completely turns around one and says, you know what she did, your cunting daughter. Chris is finally like, fuck, let's go find a priest then. All right, let's go. Let's go find a priest.
Like, we need to figure this shit out.
And so
how does that not have any ramifications on poor Reagan?
None.
Oh, I know. Like, horribly.
At the very least, I'm like, turn it back now. Fix it the right way.
Think anatomy-wise, because then your skin would be like turned.
Yeah.
We're like, how's it going to reset?
You would look. It would be more like Death Becomes Her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's not the only time it happens in this movie either.
No.
Like, so once I would say it wouldn't even go back the right way, but twice you're fucked. Like you're just done.
Like you're like the skin more.
Yeah.
So, and two like.
So then she would just have that Death Becomes Her thing where her head's bobbing back and forth and then going into her body and shit. Oh. But I like when she comes back with Father Karras and
Cunting daughter.
Carl is there. It's like, it wants no straps.
Well, you gotta.
I know that's the first time. Like they're referring to it as it at that point.
Yeah.
Like it wants no straps.
We were aware this is not fucking Reagan anymore.
I am Father Karras. I am Swiss.
I'm Swiss. It wants no straps.
Well, I love how he's still kind of a little skeptical about going up there, and he talks to her, and then he starts telling her all these things. He's like, maybe they're onto something here.
Oh, when he's like, "Can you help an old altar boy father again?" I was like, "Yeah." If you heard that, nope. I'm like, all right. And then she pukes green all over you.
Yep.
Like blah, 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 plum, that, that.
There's so much tension in the silent scenes, is what I like to call them. Because when Chris is doing Karis's laundry after he gets puked all over it, they're just quietly like staring at each other and intensely looking back and forth, and you can feel the tension in those scenes.
To me, it's just them looking at each other like, this is some fucked up shit.
Yes.
That room had to be refrigerated for them to have the actual breath. That's real breath.
Oh yeah.
So that room was refrigerated, and the poor Linda Blair had to do those scenes in just the little nightgown.
Yeah.
They couldn't give her heavy freaking blankets.
They put this poor kid through some shit, man.
Yeah, because when they jerked her around on the bed, that was real back and forth.
And then, this is back before there was real child labor laws in Hollywood. Because back then it was like, who cares? They're in Hollywood. We don't need
It's a kid. They'll bounce back from it.
We'll pay her enough to where it's fine.
The parents said it was fine.
They're okay with it. They're not objecting. Do it some more.
I like when he comes back to gather evidence for the exorcism or whatever, and Reagan says, "What an excellent day for the exorcism," and he's like, "Oh, it would bring us closer together," talking about Karis and him, and I'm like, "Well, how foreshadowing."
Well, I love the one thing how he does. The thing is, he starts gathering a bunch of evidence because he records the conversation that he has.
You have to
with
get
her.
approval from
Yeah.
I don't know if it's not the Vatican back then or whatever, but the church has to approve it, and he needs evidence first.
Yeah, and so he gets her speaking in tongues. And have you ever known anybody who said they could speak in tongues?
No.
I have.
Who?
Somebody's mom.
Uh-oh.
Is this the same mom that we almost talked about last week?
This is the same mom. So yes, the hooker also spoke in tongues. Crazy world,
and
right,
tongues
kid?
spoken her.
Oh, they did multiple times.
No.
But I love how the speaking in tongues.
Vulgar display of
Yes,
power.
it is. I love how it just ends up being English in reverse.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like,
Okay,
why didn't he notice that the thing was going, Marin?
Yeah, why
I'm
does
like,
no one notice that he's talking about Father Marin? Like I always bring that up. Like when anyone talks about it, like how come no one ever says it? Like, especially when he's like, holy shit, you're bringing who? Marin?
Yeah, Marin.
Where did I hear that name before?
Yeah.
I don't know. That fucking recording I just heard yesterday.
Oh, the demon said it.
Maybe we shouldn't bring this guy in.
And even when Marin shows up, when you get the whole like blue thing, because that's when they really turn up the blue hues, is when the exorcism goes on. When Marin shows up and he comes into the house for the first time, he screams Marin again, or Pazuzu does.
Wait, go back just a little bit because we got to talk about the most iconic scene. One of the most iconic things that they used on the movie posters is when he gets out of the cab.
Yeah, with the light. Yeah,
I love that.
It's so creepy, and it's been reused so many times, and even the little tune. I'm like, I could think of like 6,
Yes.
I always think of that scary movie.
Oh yeah, gotta give him candy. Yeah, but I was like, if I hear show up for an exorcist, right, or an exorcism, and the demon just starts screaming my name, and be like, maybe we should call in somebody else.
I know. I've been turning around back. Did you guys tell him I was coming?
Maybe we should surprise him. I'm just saying. Maybe we need another name in here.
I'm gonna go back. I forgot some stuff. I'll be back. Never.
Well, even when Kara started asking the mom about those things, like, did you guys tell her about all this? And I was
this is what happens when you don't say anything. Because she's like, "Why do you ask?" And he's like, "Oh, no reason." And he just walks away. I'm like, make up your mind, man, because you were like, that wasn't holy water.
Yeah.
And to me, I was thinking about that, and he was like, well, I threw holy water, and it wasn't really holy water, but
they don't know that.
They acted like it was. And to me, I'm like, but if he wants to throw you off, Pazuzu, right?
Yeah.
Into thinking like, nope, she's just crazy. It's not no need for an exorcism. Wouldn't that fit the bill to be like, I'm going to pretend like this is holy water just to throw him off because this moron thinks, well, it's not holy water, so they're just acting.
But then again, how would he know it was holy water?
Yeah, well, see, and I have a whole subplot in my head. I'm like, did they not even want Reagan at all? Like, was the goal always to get Karis? Because, like, when she says it's going to bring us closer together. So I was like, obviously they knew Marin was coming. They knew, I feel like they had maybe knew ahead of time what was going to happen, the whole foreshadowing thing. So I'm like, was their goal never Reagan then?
I don't know. It probably was just to lure them. It could have been
Well,
that thing.
It could have been Marin, but Marin keeled over before.
Yeah. See, I think that's more plausible because I want to say there's some backstory with Marin and Pazuzu from before.
Probably the
In
book
the
thing.
second one, I don't remember. I don't remember the second one that well. And I've seen the first one 100 times and still don't understand what the fuck's going
Yeah.
on.
I love that. Your mother sucks cocks in hell.
So. Which is why Beetlejuice had to watch it 66 times.
It got funnier every time.
Yep. I love how when they're doing the exorcism, Father Karras gets a little bit thrown when the bed rises off the ground. He's like, fuck, and forgets
Like,
to say his
I
line.
know he's like, Father Karras.
Marin's like,
The
Karras,
response.
Karras.
The response.
The thing you gotta love though is how they're doing their little montage of them getting all their stuff in, and he's going over the rules because he's like, "Don't listen to it," and he's like trying to tell him, "Is like, no, I think I figured out the person." They're like, "No."
Yeah.
Just
He's like,
another
"I know what I'm
montage.
doing." He's like, "I don't need to know the backstory. There's only one. There's not three.
I think there's three. Like, nope. There's only one.
There's only one."
And
They can't
Pazuzu
see.
really likes to have his tongue out. He's all,
I'm telling you, Pazuzu's just horny.
he is. He's thirsty.
That's just the fucking. It's like the sex demon. That's
It is.
what if that's what it is? Like, what if? Okay, imagine somebody's at like sexual anonymous. What's the fucking thing? Sex addicts anonymous.
go.
And it's like
Sex Addicts Anonymous.
I'm possessed by a sex demon. Like, what the
Mm.
fuck? I don't belong here.
And I mean, I get the whole sexual addiction
That's
thing.
no
but
excuse, Karen, for your sexual addiction.
It's true. It's true.
No, I have a sex demon.
Sex demon. That's just your penis. Put it away.
I am Pazuzu.
Pazuzu has a penis in that statue, I think.
He does, and it's erect.
It is
So
correct.
see, that statue of Pazuzu just was like,
He's just horny. Is all Pazuzu's looking to do.
Pazuzu the sex demon. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's literally what this was. You think there's a porn? I guarantee there's
Oh,
a
there's
porn.
gotta be
There's
an
gotta be a
Exorcist porn.
Kim, I'm looking at you.
And
Look
I
it up.
bet the line, the power of
Just
Christ
Google.
compels you is in it in some way.
the power of penis compels you.
compels you.
The thing that always cracks me up, even though it's from this movie, and I see it in other things, like what is it on This Is the End when they keep doing that thing?
Yeah.
Where they
Oh,
keep
does
saying
it, Jay? Does it compel you? Yes.
He's like, "Is that the only thing you know?" He's like, "That's the only thing I've seen."
It's the only thing anybody knows. Nobody knows anything else.
Again, we only go away and see in movies.
Yes.
So it's all we have to go off of. So again, I don't know what the fuck we'd do if Pazuzu the sex demon was, possessing somebody and we had to like what the fuck do you
But
do?
we're all
Like,
adults. So and if it possessed another adult, I mean, we could just have a party. I'm just. If Pazuzu's looking for some horniness,
I'm
don't.
not into crucifix crotch. We'll just call it
That's
that.
true.
I don't know,
No
man.
violence.
There's Pazuzu's a little too freaky for my
Yeah.
taste, I think. Kim, how are we doing with that Google?
She's not gonna look at her. She's like, nope.
She's watching something.
Marin also just lets Karras get hit in the fucking head by Reagan. He's just no warning, no nothing. Like
Yeah.
Karras gets smacked fully in the back of the
I know.
head.
I was like, wait, like heads up, buddy. Like, say something. Like
know.
he tied the arms and he's going up, tying her legs after the whole bed rising or scene, levitation scene, and then it's like it sits up, gets its arms ready, and I'm like, say something,
Say
man.
something, anything, dude. Come on.
Like heads up, father.
But then they need a snack break, is what I wrote.
Yeah.
They're tired.
Yes.
They need to re-energize themselves. They need some protein. They need to hydrate. They need to get back.
I need you to clean this. Give Matrix box.
Yep. And then they're all worried about her heart. I'm like, I don't know, guys. Maybe get the demon out first.
Yeah,
And then
there's- I
worry
think
about
there's
it.
other
What
things
would
we need to
happen
worry
though
about.
if she was into a coma? Like nothing would happen though. Like right? Like the demon would just be like, you're stuck in there in a coma.
Like,
Yeah,
Oops.
you're just stuck in Reagan in a coma
Yeah,
now.
way to go.
I also liked the scene where Sharon, where Sharon brings Father Karras over. And
Oh,
she's
yeah.
like, I don't want Chris to see this.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, that leads more into Sharon seeing some shit.
Yeah,
and
because that's
she's
what I'm
out.
like. You
Yeah.
you feel bad, but at the same time, at the end, you're like, I don't blame you for leaving.
No, and I
Sharon.
think that scene at the end where they hug, they both kind of are like, okay, I understand.
but Sharon comes back in the second one.
she does.
She
yeah.
is in the second one. I think they moved to New York or something. I think was the second one takes place, and she's back in the second one. So I think she's really like, look, I just need some. I just need to not be around Reagan for a while.
Yeah.
I think that's really what it comes
Just
down
need
to.
some
Because how do
space.
you like imagine like you have a fucking like niece or something that goes through, like you see all that shit. You're like, how am I ever gonna be around you without feeling there's something weird in there still?
It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'm gonna stay
Just
away
a
from you for a little
little
bit.
bit. Like
I just need some time.
I'm just gonna like randomly throw holy water at you for the rest of our lives.
Like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm just making sure.
I know. And then if Reagan was
Oh,
ever
that's it. No,
staring
pool-
off into space again, I'd be like, nope,
pool
nope, nope.
party, pool party. Bless the water.
There you go. Just
Good.
Jump in
Have a
there.
dip, Reagan. Good. I had a coworker who she has a daughter named Reagan, and I laughed and I'm like, "Did you name her after The Exorcist?" And she was like, "I never thought about that."
like ever.
Yeah, she wasn't a horror fan really.
Oh,
So I was like, "You never thought about that? That's the girl's name?" He's like, "No." That's funny. I'm like, you should just tell people that's why you named it, because it's kind of cooler to say.
I've done that
named
a
it.
lot. I've done
I've
that a
named
lot.
it after The Exorcist
Yeah.
rather than I didn't know, and now I feel stupid. 10 years later.
Somebody had a band one time, and I'm pretty sure they're not a band anymore, so it doesn't matter. But their band was called Any Day Now, and I was like the Lifetime show, and they were like, "Oh,
Like, you ruined it.
like,
What does that mean?
sorry."
You ruined it.
Wait, what show?
My mom used to watch it on Lifetime. I don't know. It's a Lifetime show.
Pretty sure my mom used to watch that too. That's definitely a mom.
I just
show.
remember the intro song because it was so annoying. It was like, "Any Day Now." I was like, "Oh, this is awful."
Isn't
Yeah.
that a song and something else too? I
Probably.
picture some horrible movie where it's a
but-
musical.
When they come back from their snack break, Mirren looks even more gray.
Yeah.
Like he's not going to make it long, and he doesn't. He immediately
No, you
dies.
don't. Because what? Karis goes downstairs and he's like, damn it, I got kicked out.
He does, because Father
No,
Mirren's
no,
like,
'cause-
"Get out."
Yeah, because he's like, "You're not my mom."
Yeah. Mhm.
He is that whole thing. Like, Dimmy, why you do this to me,
Why you do
Dimmy?
this, Dimmy, Dimmy?
Dimmy, why?
And then I love when he goes back in the room and he sees him dead and he's like, fuck you, and he starts punching him.
Oh, yeah.
He beats the shit out of that little girl.
Karis kicks the demon's ass.
Starts beating the shit out of this 12-year-old.
Yeah, he does. It's like, "Take me, take me." I'm like, is punching the demon helping? I don't know.
I'm like, gonna beat you out of this kid.
Couldn't he just be like, "Hey, demon, take me," and that
All
would
right,
have worked? I
motherfucker.
don't know.
All right, motherfucker. Prayers didn't work. I'm gonna beat you out of this
Yeah,
fucking
Like, we
Beat
gonna
your
try
ass.
something new.
Wait,
You
I
know.
didn't sign up for this.
like,
Which,
yo.
incidentally, was the way people raised children in the 70s.
Beat the demons out of you.
So, I mean, it was the last thing he had in
If
his,
Father
his
Karras
handbook.
has taught me anything,
Mm-hmm.
how fucked up are you as the ultra boy for Father Karras now? After you're like, he beat the shit out of this 12-year-old and jumped out of the fucking window
He
because he
did.
had a demon in him, like, and I was just hanging out with that dude all the fucking time.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
I like how the priest friend comes as he's like dying and gives him his final confession, because that's what priests would want. at the
Okay,
end.
I
rites.
always wondered, like, are those the last rites? Like,
Yeah.
is that what
Yeah.
they ask you
Yeah.
for sure? Because I've never known or looked them up.
Yeah, I've
If
never
that's-
either, but I'm pretty sure that's
I'm
what they
assuming
are.
that's like literally just what they tell you. Or
You
what
have
they
to
ask
say
you.
sorry one last time.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't mean to beat the shit out of a 12-year-old. It just happened.
There's extenuating circumstances for that one though.
Yeah. And also Sharon does find Father Karras's like pennant, or what is
Yeah.
that thing called? That
Yeah,
little
his
thing
necklace.
he's got, his little necklace, and she's like, "I don't know what you want to do
Okay.
with this, Chris."
Okay. So that one was the same one that like Marin found in Iraq.
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming there's more to that in the book because it's
Yeah.
just weird and they
Yeah.
just
See,
they
that's
mention
why I'm
it
like,
once.
there's all foreshadowing, and they make it seem like everything was preordained,
Yeah, I'm
kind
like-
of a thing.
But they don't go into that in the movie. Like, I feel like you wasted so much time on all these stuff that are probably major plot points or major
In the
backstory or importance in the book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in the movie, I'm like, it just doesn't. It's just like, what was the point of showing me that? It's big. I think that's what makes it so much more confusing, because you have all these things and you think they're leading somewhere, and they probably do in the book, but not in the fucking movie.
Yeah. And the budget was 11 million. Am I reading that right? Okay, yeah. And it grossed over 232 million in the US alone.
Well, probably because everybody wanted to see what this movie was all about.
Well, people were
It's 'cause,
fainting in the fucking theaters.
Yeah, it's because you fainted in the movie, and they're like, shit, I don't know how it ended. I gotta go see it again.
gotta
I
We'll see
mean,
it again.
I guess if I hadn't seen like Nightmare on Elm Street or the slashers of the 80s before I had seen
Yeah,
this,
if,
it might have been a little creepier to me.
I don't know though, because I'm like, I saw Nightmare on Elm Street when I was 4, and
Yeah.
I was never scared, so I don't know. I don't think seeing Exorcist at that young of an age would have scared me. I don't know.
The one that always got me was Texas Chainsaw. I never understood how anybody thought that was scary. I watched it and I was so bored. I was so bored, and I was like, Leatherface is cool. He's not in the movie
The
nearly
family
enough.
was just creepy in that one.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, they eat people. That's not that. I mean, people have actually done that in the real world. That's scary.
The only movie that I would say
There
that
was
kind
a
of
guy
got
in
me when I
Ohio
was
last week.
Yeah,
the only one that kind of got me when I was a kid was Child's Play, because I saw that when I was little.
yeah.
I was probably-
Friday the 13th creeped me out because I lived around a lot of like woods and shit. Because being in Iowa, there's a bunch of nothingness and trees, right? So that one kind of creeped me out.
Well, here's the other thing about it though too is my mom and my sister used to have these big, Paul, you probably know these big ass giant Mexican dolls that look like they were probably like
I think
good,
my grandma had some.
they're
of
like a
those.
good
Yeah.
2, maybe 3 feet tall.
Yeah, they're creepy dolls.
My ass watches Child's Play and I see this fucking thing that's almost as big as fucking Chucky, and I look it in the corner. I'm like, I just saw Child's Play. This thing's gonna fucking come and try to get me.
Yeah. Yeah, Chucky was creepy. The other one that got me was Night of the Living Dead, not the Romero one, because I didn't see that one first. I saw the
Savini one.
Savini remake one. And I was like, again, it's just a house in the middle of nothing. There's dead people trying to get in.
that could have been Iowa.
It could have been Iowa. So, yeah, those ones kind of creeped me out. But, yeah, Child's Play, I was just always into the doll. I was like, I want to be friends with Chucky. Why can't I
was
have a
just a
doll
creepy
who's
doll.
See, me, I'm
possessed?
like, it's a fucking doll. I will
know,
just
punch
kick
it.
you over.
No, but here's the other thing about it though too is like growing up, how I did is we would go to like aunts and uncles' houses and it'd always have those creepy dolls that are behind like glass or whatever need be.
Why did people like those? We had
don't
this
know.
one house in my small town in Council Bluffs that had
Y'all
two
had some-
dolls.
Y'all had some weird relatives.
They weren't my relatives. They were just people in my town that would put these dolls in like their attic windows and they had lights behind
Okay, that
them.
would
So
be
every
fucking
time you
creepy
drive
as
by
fuck.
them, you see these fucking weird ass dolls with lights behind them. And at night, those fuckers were fucking weird. I was
That
like,
would scare
what
the
is
shit out of
wrong
me.
with these people? These people have feet in their fridge. Like, we need to check on them.
Those were dolls that they made to represent the children that they had kidnapped.
Yes. I
that
mean,
are
it
buried
definitely
in their
had to have
backyard.
been something like
I'm
that.
writing this short story right
But
now.
anyway, that's
It's in
enough
my
about
head.
our weird childhood.
Yes, tell us about your weird childhood. Email us.
And that was The Exorcist. It's a classic. I mean, you have to
Something,
see
daughter.
it. You have to see it if you're a cinephile or a horror fan.
Yeah.
You have to. But it's the mother of all possession movies because it's probably the most well-known possession movie.
Yes.
It's one that's been ripped off over and over again.
Parodied so much too.
Parodied to death. But anyway, it's a great movie. You should watch it. It is currently on Showtime if you have that. If not, you can probably rent it on Prime or some shit. So next week we are coming back with a mother possession, The Taking of Deborah Logan, which is actually a very good one that a lot of people like. It is found footage, I believe, as well. But we will be back next week with The Taking of Deborah Logan. You can check us out on all the social medias, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can like, share, subscribe. Make sure that you do subscribe. That way you never miss an episode because I know sometimes we get sick and we can't put it out in that week. But if you guys want more horror entertainment news, you can check out scarynerd.com. And that's all I got. Paul, you got anything else?
I think it was the Charles in charge. What's the guy's name? Scott Baio.
Scott Baio.
I think he was in a movie. I think it was that movie called Zapped where he goes invisible. But his mom in that movie is a religio, and she watches this religious channel where she like calls in, and the guy always called her Deborah. So every time I see like Deborah with an H, I always think it's Deborah.
I always have to
Deborah.
say, Deborah. Like, what's her face from Adam's Family Values?
He's like, what about Debbie?
What about Debbie? Saul, you got anything
Malibu
else?
Barbie.
No.
Was it
I got nothing.
It was
Stacy?
Malibu
I
Barbie.
got nothing.
Yeah. We'll be back.
We'll be back next week. We'll see you guys then. Bye-bye.
Bye everyone.